Alright, hi, my name is Karan. I will try to narrate this as best as I can. Welcome to I invest $100 into the stock market. And this is especially for people who this would be their first time. So I'm trying to replicate that sort of point of view. So first thing, I'm going to do some explanation on what a stock is, how to get into stocks, what investing is. Something very, very baseline. That way anyone's able to understand. And so for this channel, I really wanted to try to pinpoint three different themes across not only most of my videos, but also just to make sure that people are aware and that they're educated. But not only that, I want to make sure that they're able to find ways to implement whatever I teach into their own life. And so the kind of slogan for my channel is going to be educate, entertain, and execute. Enough of that, going back into the video. Basically, the stock market and investing is something that anyone is able to do. Even if you have $1, you're able to invest. All you have to do is make a brokerage account with any sort of brokerage firm, whether it be Robinhood, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, anything like that. And you just have to connect a bank account to this brokerage firm and then transfer money into it, and then those are the easiest steps. After that is when things start to get difficult, just because you have to start taking into account what sort of ETFs, what sort of stocks do I have to put money into, how often should I put money into it, what happens in 2 months when half my money's gone, what sort of emotions are you going to have. Stock investing is a very emotional and taxing thing, just because a lot of people, they don't like seeing the red. They don't like seeing money lost. And it's so important that during those times, you know what sort of investment path you're on and what sort of principles dictate your investment path going forward. So for me, I'm a very much long-term investor. Most of my portfolio, I would say about 65 to 70% of it is divided up. Actually, more like 80% is divided up into dividends. This could be either in the form of REITs, which is real estate investment trusts. This could be ETFs or index funds, or it can be in other sort of individual stocks like Microsoft. So the meat of this video, I'm going to show you putting $100 into my brokerage account and then seeing the sort of the mentality that's behind my head going into putting the money into which sort of into which stock or which assortment of stocks, and I'll try to just take you along through the process. That way you could get some sort of inclination of what I'm thinking about. But again, this is entirely for educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor or financial investment guru. I'm just doing what I've been doing for the past 4 years. Mostly, I learned pretty much all by myself. Let's break this down. What is a stock? A stock is a piece of a company that once you buy it, you become an investor. It's essentially all public companies. They have stock, it's called common stock, that's available to the public in order to gain a piece of ownership of the company. So for example, this is 1 share of Apple. If I bought this share of Apple, then that means I'm now an investor in this $1 trillion company Apple. The question you need to ask is, why should you invest? You probably hear the word investing thrown around all the time, but why do you need to invest? Breaking that down into what does that really mean? So investing is just making sure that your money is working for you, as opposed to sitting in a savings account with any of the top banks getting 0.1%, 0.01% interest in the savings account. You want more money than that. And that's why it's so important to just educate yourself in the stock market realm and in finance, and personal finance specifically. And just because you want to make sure that your money's working all the time, and especially while you sleep, that your money's working all the time. I'll go into some of the details in stocks right now. So you can have 3 different types of stocks. You can have just a regular stock, which is just a company stock, like Apple, Microsoft, Google. You can have an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, which is just a culmination of all those big companies in the United States. And so each of those fund managers, they allocate different percentages of, different industries. So there could be like 10% healthcare, 7% technology, 5% financial services, etc., etc. Now it's up to you to determine what sort of blend you want for your portfolio. And this, this also goes with Roth IRAs, which is a completely different video. But the third one is dividends. So as I said earlier, about 80% of my portfolio is dividends in the form of, real estate investment trusts. Some provide monthly dividends. You can also have some index funds also provide dividends, although it's not really a lot. That sort of thing. Also, when looking at some of these stocks and dividends, you want to make sure that you're also looking at the expense ratio, because something that I didn't know early on was that these expense ratios are very expensive, and I won't go about that in this video. I could make a different video later on, but basically, depending on your certain allocation of money, if you put 10 grand, you'll have the expense ratio. That'll be your fee. So you want the lowest one possible. So essentially, I went through the education. Sometimes I will try to throw in some entertainment, although this is my first recording for YouTube, and I am pretty nervous. But usually I am pretty lax, I would say, and my humor is on a wide spectrum. If some of my friends, get my Instagram reels, they know. But I'm just going to go through the implementation and the execution of this, just because I want you guys to have a full grasp of, step 1, step 2, and then step 3, just to be able to go do it by yourself. And so I'm going to try to have it up on my screen here. I'm talking to future self recording or editing this, but I'll try to narrate it as we're going along. So basically, okay, so this is my Robinhood account. I'm going to blur some of this stuff just because, it's not necessary for you guys to see that. And so you see the buying power, it shows $100. I might also blur some of this out just because that's not necessary for you. So basically, I'm just going to put it in SPY, which is called Spider. I'm going to put it in SPY, so you see me putting just the full $100. I actually would have allocated it differently, just because, I think Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, he is stepping down the end of the year. So I probably should have put, $40-50 into Berkshire, just because it did drop to about $485, $486, something like that. And so, I don't know, that was also going through my head, but I don't have enough SPY in the sort of blend that I wanted in my current allocation, you could say. And so that I just put 100% into SPY. And I think, your best bet as a beginner investor is just knowing, the S&P 500, that's what SPY is, your actual best bet. Because I think it's over the last 70, 80 years, it's net 7 to 8%, which is, absolutely ridiculous. But, some years they're 20% return, some years it's negative 20, although that is pretty rare. But although I hope this gives you a good understanding or a basic understanding of what it is to, start investing, have a brokerage account, putting, money into your brokerage account, and figuring out what it is that you want to invest in, whether it's a dividend stock, a regular stock, just a company stock, or if it's an ETF. And so I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you found it useful, and drop me a comment on what you want to see next. If you want further explanation on stocks, investing, if you want me to dive into something different, then let me know.